amazing. God made something, everything, very good. And I really want to thank Adam and Emma for what they read. What a blessing to hear that God made everything. And it was very good. We watched a movie right at the beginning about the beginning of life, and Doug mentioned about how life from the very beginning of a human being until the very end of their physical life here on the planet is precious in the sight of God. It is good. And we are created, every human being is created in the image of God. Wow, what does that mean? Image of God. There's so much in that. And so many people have thought about it, and everybody thinks about it a little bit differently. And what a privilege to have that as an understanding or a start. Every single human being is created in the image of God. Now, what does image of God mean? Well, in the verse just before the one that Adam and Emma read together, it said that they would rule over the earth. Wow. Boy, how is that going? Ruling over the earth is a very dangerous thing. And God has put us in a place of responsibility ruling over the earth. And you can imagine how, well, you can look around and see how that's been going. Some people rule over the world in amazing and wonderful ways, and other people rule over the world in other ways. But the creation is, God created it to rule over the world in a wonderful way, in a beautiful way, in a joyful way, in an excited way. And just as God said it was good, it was good, it was good, and then he said it was very good. That's the way he's called us to do his creation, to be in his image. But then there's also another aspect of that. First, creation and ruling, and we'll talk about creation a little bit more. But there's this aspect of relationship. Wow, what a wonderful thing. It was so fun to hear two people reading those scriptures back and forth and then reading it together. And then to hear the music beforehand, how they worked together. And God said, let us make man in our image, in verse 26. What a wonderful text to have. Let us make man in our image. It's a wonderful thing to think that it's a community right in the beginning. And I love the Trinity. I love God, the Godhead, the three in one. Because from before anything was created, there was a loving, wonderful, joyful, celebratory sharing of relationship. And whatever the Father had, the Son had. Whatever the Spirit had, the Father had. And that triangle, that eternal sharing of love and sharing of goodness and sharing of creativity, of everything that was good, was from before anything existed in the Godhead. What a wonderful place to be. What a wonderful existence. The Creator of everything lives together. And he didn't need anybody else. He didn't need anything else. He was perfect. He is perfect. He could have been for all eternity past, all eternity future, whatever that means. Past and future didn't exist even then. In that wonderful relationship of self-giving. the whole time. But he said, no, let us create man in our image. And then he said, male and female, he created them. This is the beginning of the first earthly family, and it's God and male and female. And what a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful picture we have. From the beginning, when God, the triune God, created, he created together people in relationship with God, man and woman and God. Another triangle, another wonderful place. But in that triangle, it's a family, man and woman, male and female, equal, together, serving, learning, growing. And of course, things changed. Struggle happened. People turned. But the image of God was always there and is always there when he created us in his image. It's almost like a mirror, you know. What do you do at the mirror? Well, when you brush your teeth and then you floss it, it gets kind of flecks on the mirror, right? When you're in the bathroom and you're looking at the mirror and it gets flecks on it. It looks really ugly. Terrible. And that's sort of like what we do to our own lives. In that the mirror is fine. It's the stuff on it that's bad. The mirror is very good. But when the stuff gets on it, it gets messed up. And that's what we as people on this planet have the problem with. And that problem is we turned away from God and did our own thing. But what does God do? What does God do? God, he comes in, and just like what Jesus did at the beginning when he was on the earth, he washed his disciples' feet. It's just like that. Jesus comes and cleans the mirror. He cleans it off, and he makes it so clear. What a wonderful place to be. God makes it good again. God is always in the process of making things good again. He made it perfect, and he wants to remake it perfect, and he does that through his Son. Now, so let's go back to that man and woman. The man and the woman are created in the image of God. In that picture, there's an amazing, amazing truth. That begins families, that begins communities, that begins people groups, that begins all sorts of various groupings of people. From the beginning, when man was placed on the earth in an incredible, beautiful place that God had made, he created it in such a way that it was beautiful. And then he created it in such a way that man and woman were together. And man and woman became family. Family became community. Community became people groups. And people groups became nations. Language groups were developed. Kathy, could I just have my water? It's over there. It's a great privilege to know that we're in community. And every individual, every group, every community, every language group, every ethnic group, every gathering of people is created in the image of God and can reflect that image. But just like the mirror in our bathroom, it can reflect it badly or it can reflect it really good. Just to go down to one scripture that talks about this is Abraham. Abraham, before he was Abraham, he was Abram. And God said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Created in the image of God, Abram, who is now, he's a man and a wife without a child. But this is what God promises him. You're going to have multiple children, not just multiple children. You are going to be a great nation, and from that great nation, what's going to happen? You and your descendants are going to be a blessing to all the nations of the world. What a heritage he has. What a blessing he has. So, we, as God's people, created in God's image, get to be a blessing. And another picture of a mirror is you can look at yourself in the mirror, and sometimes when you look at yourself in the mirror, when I do, it's pretty messed up. It needs help. So I comb my hair and I look at myself. Why is there so much gray, and everything? But then also, you can take a mirror, and if you turn it a little ways at an angle, it can show you something else. It can show you something else. And so you're standing here, and the mirror is there, and it's angled. Then it looks over there. Well, what can the mirror show? Well, being created in the image of God is like we are a mirror. We are a mirror. And so when a person looks at us, they see God. And when God looks at us, that he sees people. Well, he sees them directly too. So we can, as people created in the image of God and recreated in the image of God, we can be people who reflect the character of God. I loved when Doug was talking last week about the moon. Now, the moon is a beautiful planet. It's really wonderful. But it isn't a shining planet. It doesn't shine. It only reflects. And Doug was mentioning that and saying, wow, this is crazy. I mean, it's the light that the moon has is only reflected light. Yes, it's reflected light. But the moon itself, which is is created by God, has its own beauty. But the beauty of that moon is only seen when the sun shines on it. And so, when, like us, we're the mirror, when the sun shines on it, they see the reflection of God on the mirror, and then they see, and then God shows himself through the mirror of our lives to others. Wow. And some mirrors really are beautiful, but usually what they do they're made to reflect something. And what a privilege to reflect. Now, if every human being is created in the image of God, when we look at another human being, what is God calling us to see? God is calling us to see his image in them. And I was just listening to something. You spend a lot of time in social distancing, watching various things on the computer. And one person said he was training a counselor. And he said, before you speak anything, make sure that you see part of the goodness of God in the other person before you say anything. Now, that's a very, very challenging thing. I'm sure Abram had struggles blessing the people around him. But once we see the wonderful things of God in another person, and we take our breath, let me see what's the image of God in that person. Then we can bless them in another wonderful way. Bless them. We can say, oh, there is something there that's a treasure. There is something there that's wonderful. There's something there that God created and made. Every single one of us is worthy to be called made in the image of God. Because God made us, and He loves us without measure. And He made us, and what He makes is good. What we do with the good, well, sometimes it's our choice. And sadly, our choices sometimes lead us in very, very sad places. If we choose to turn from God, He never turns from us. But if we turn from Him, what do we get? Whatever we want. And what do we want? It doesn't turn out too well, does it? Sometimes. Are we doing what we were created for? No. We're created for relationship. We're created for relationship primarily, first with God, but then with one another. Just like it said, man and woman were created for each other. Communities were created for each other. Abram was created to have a family and to become the father of a nation and the blesser of multiple nations. That's what our life is all about. And, you know, it's such a privilege to see with God's eyes. And one of the sad things in my life is the one that's closest to me is the one I hurt the most. Because I forget to look at her, she brought me the water, and say, she's created in God's image. She belongs, she's the one I get blessed by so much. Let me be a blessing to her. Let me be that channel of God's blessing in her life. Bless, bless, bless. Receive blessing. That's the place we belong. Because we're created in the image of God, and God, just like in C.S. Lewis's book, somebody about Aslan, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, somebody asked, is God safe? Is Aslan safe? And he said, he's not safe, but he's good. God is good. The goodness of God is the place we can live in. Everything He makes is good. Everything He makes in totality is very good. So let's live in that very good place, the blessing of God. If we look at another human being or another part of the creation of God and don't appreciate it, we miss the very good. And I do it all the time. Not all the time, thankfully. A lot. I wish I could do it less. And I wish I could live in that blessing place. That place where the blessing flows. The reflection of God bounces onto others. And the goodness of God, the thing that God created me to be, can be shown fully and freely and joyfully. What a place to be. What a thing to do. That's the image of God in us. We're created in the image of God for good. For very good. And that's what blessing is. Now, Abram was the father of a people, and his call was to be a blessing. And his faith is an example to us of a person who lived a sanctified life. We were talking about the sanctity of life. Every being is a sanctified being, is a holy being, is a person who is set aside for special purposes that only God and that person know. And every community, every family is also created in that way. Every being is created in that way. Now let's look just quickly at the most perfect individual, the perfect individual that came to the planet. This is the first thing. This is some of the things that are said about him. The Son is the radiance of God's glory. He's not a mirror. It's coming straight out of him. He's showing who God is. If you want to see God, then look at Jesus. If you want to see God straight, look at him. He's the exact representation of he sustains all things by his power, a powerful word after he had provided purification for sins. He wiped the mirror clean. He sat down at the right hand of the majesty in heaven. And that's where he is, saying, go for it. Adam, do it. Emma, do it. Everybody, do it. Be a blessing. Be a blessing. Be who you were created to be in my image. And then the Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. Not firstborn as in the one born first, but the preeminent one, the greatest one. For in him all things were created. Oh, there it is. He was the creator. He is the creator. Things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, all things have been created through him and for him. And before all things and in all things hold. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. How are you doing? Are you holding it together? You know what? We do not have to hold it together. That's somebody else's job. Who's going to hold it together? Jesus. Let Jesus hold you together. Let Jesus hold your family together. I'm saying that to me. Let Jesus hold my family together. Let Jesus hold our families together. Let Jesus hold our communities together. Let Jesus hold the relationships between different parties and different political views, people with different political views. Let Jesus hold countries together. Let Jesus hold the planet together. Let Jesus hold everything together, which is what is visible and what is invisible. Let him hold it. Say, hey, here it is, God. I kind of made a mess of it. All that fleck is on the mirror. Could you mind? I don't like it when you clean it, but could you just clean it up a bit? Or just clean it up completely. He says, I already did it, but I'll wipe it off. Go ahead. Come on. Let me do it. I love it because I want you to reflect me as clearly as possible in every way possible. Because I can hold you together. You cannot hold yourself together. You're not made that way. We're made for each other. We belong together. Come to me, and we can have a great time together. That's Jesus. Look at him. So how do we do this? Well, when Jesus was tempted on the earth, he spent 40 days not eating, not drinking, and there he was. And here's what he said. The Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Now, how are you, as an image bearer of God, the one who has God's image in you and reflected from you, going to do what Jesus does? Find the poor. Who moves your heart? Who moves your spirit? When you see somebody and you go, That's the place where God says you can be an image bearer and you can minister into that person's life. We know that Doug and Christy, they see foster children and they go, ah. And they did that, and now they have 2 wonderfully, beautifully adopted children in their family. What about people who are trafficked? If your heart goes, oh, that's the move of the Spirit of God saying to you, go, be with them, minister into their lives. We have the privilege of having the pulled at us in other countries. But right here, every single person can be a missionary. Every single person can share the love of Jesus. Every single person can be the image bearer as clearly as possible when that fleck on the mirror is lessened, and we can show His goodness. Now, and also, we don't have to do it alone. We can do it with Jesus, but we can also do it in community. Community. Find other people. Let God show you who the other people who are also engaged in that together. And then do it together. Because doing it together is reflecting the image of God. Male and female, family, community, people. What a place to be. And you know what? I have something really, 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 really wonderful to look forward to, and so do you. See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called the children of God. And that is what we are. Dear friends, now we are children of God. And what we will be has not yet been made known. There's still some fleck on the mirror. There's still some stuff on that mirror. But we know that when Christ appears, that means when He comes back fully, completely, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. Whew! We get some shadow, we get some fleck on the mirror, but that day, whew, we're going to have so much fun. So clearly we're going to see Him. Amazing. Well, find those people. Be the image bearers of Jesus. Be and do Jesus. Amen.